What it takes a marketeer to start a new career chapter in consulting and technology, and what it takes a consultant in technology to get into a topic that is very innovative and not explored enough. Today, my guest is a true example who combines braveness, curiosity, a lot of passion, a lot of expertise, and a successful career in a corporate world. Meet Asma Shabab. I'm so happy to have her on my show. Hey, Asma. So great to see you this morning.
Larissa, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's just so amazing to meet you and finally connect again.
It's funny that we spoke a little bit before we started this episode, and I told you that it's been quite a while since I was interviewing a female. I'm so delighted. I don't know. It's just, it just feels so great to have somebody as passionate, as smart, as successful as you to be my guest in the B2B marketing show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored. I'm honored that, you've invited me. I'm also honored I'm the first female, but hopefully it's a long line of subsequent female leaders that you're gonna invite to this session.
So I'd like to cover a few things, because I know you've been in a very interesting journey since you left IBM, joined Accenture. You're doing some interesting topic that you're working on now. But back in the days, when we actually met, you were part of a big marketing organization at IBM. So I want us to get back a little bit to that time and ask you first, why did you move from marketing? How was it to be a marketer, part of IBM organization, etc.? Maybe you can sort of tell me a little bit more about that.
No, absolutely. And I think for me, right, I mean, this has been a really tremendous journey. I've been working for like more than 15 years. And even before just being an IBM marketer, I had experienced different facets of communication, you would say. I was a lobbyist. I was a PR professional. I worked for political campaigns. I was very much into content. And then, of course, when I moved to IBM, it was largely about sales, creating opportunities, and really making sure that as marketers, you understand the value proposition of clients. And, that journey was more than 5 years, right? I moved to IBM where I was, IBM Middle East, where I was just focused on big clients, right? How do you market for big clients? How do you engage with them? How do you create value propositions for them? Spent a couple of years there. And then I started to I was leading, the regions of what's an IoT and artificial intelligence, offering in the market. And for me, it was a very interesting time, because if I look back, right, my career as a marketer in IBM, that when I started, the whole conversation around digital and technology for me was just, and the whole aspect of digital marketing was just starting. We were just starting to have those conversations. So IBM gave me that opportunity to understand the impact of technology in marketing. And for that, I'm very grateful, because with that, we started to understand how data plays a role, how we need to really look at customers and their needs and wants from a very empathy point of view. So I had a lot of learnings, but what I think eventually what turned the tables for me, or when I decided to move, was a couple of things, right? I felt generally that in marketing, I was focusing a lot on campaigns and tools, right? And I think that for me as a person, right, I was more into strategy. I was more into creating the value proposition, or creating, what we want to take to the client, rather than it being campaign focused and data focused. So I think that at a certain point in time, when I decided to move, different elements of marketing were being connected to, I think, different personality types or different skill sets as well. And I had the opportunity to develop, I think, core data skills. But again, my focus was a little bit on more strategy and creative side. So that compelled me to think, what is outside of marketing, but also have an understanding on how can I take the skills that I've created in marketing and really evolve my career.
That was my next question. Was it a difficult, not moment, but a journey from, let's say, a marketing heritage, and with all the knowledge that you had about, let's say, creating and managing campaigns for big clients? Was it a difficult move from skills perspective to, let's say, a business side to a consulting side? And what helped you as a professional to create that move, to make it a successful move as well? We're doing it for the sake of our community and for those marketers who are probably thinking to go outside marketing. So what it takes?
I think that's a very interesting question, right? Because we all look at what is the journey that we want to take as marketers or any professional. And I like to refer to this TEDx talk. I'm forgetting the authors and the speakers of this talk, but the talk's name is A Squiggly Career. And these speakers, right, they talk about a career that it doesn't necessarily need to be your linear promotions, that you're a manager in a function, you become like director, you become like vice president. And there's this whole new concept of a squiggly career, which means that you have different experiences and it kind of evolves and it creates that value element inside of you, which still gives you the promotion, but it's not your linear way of working. And I think, although I saw this talk just a couple of months ago, I felt that for me, I've been living that for quite some time, because the choices that I've made in terms of my jobs or my career have been based on the interest that I had and what I felt was something that I wanted to learn more of. And so the swap from marketing to consultancy happened a little similarly. So for example, when my last stint in marketing at IBM, like I mentioned earlier, was about creating this offering and doing marketing for the Watson IoT and artificial intelligence product offerings. And I started to really dig deep and understand the product a lot more. With that came this conversation about the art of the possible. And I went so much into developing understanding that I started to understand how do you use these products. And for me, those conversations became so exciting that I said, you know what? I want to have client conversations. I want to be up on stage talking about and telling and sharing my learnings with other people, that how can artificial intelligence change customer behaviors? So for me, I started talking a lot about the implications of technology on marketing, right? Looking at the broader scope, which led me to think that, I want to continue having conversations on the art of the possible. And then I started to look at, okay, what's possible out there? And I think that it was interesting. I was very fortunate that IBM has a consultancy arm that, does a lot of work in digital strategy and experience design. And that is when I thought that my evolution or the next logical step from marketing was to get into our innovation and interactive IX team at that point in IBM.
Interesting. So did you face from, let's say, from hiring perspective, did you face any difficulty from the perspective of like, because I know my journey was a little bit different. So I wasn't part of marketing historically, right? I was coming from business development and sales towards marketing for the reason that, marketing allows you to get and explore a more creative sort of part of campaigns and content, let's say. And from the perspective of you moving towards consulting, so what are the skills that helped you to move from marketing to, let's say, a business unit? Like, because consulting is meeting actually clients face to face, which not historically is a marketing job. So what helped you? And did you face any kind of difficulties while you've been hired to that position?
So I'm going to break it into two because I think it might be of benefit to the audience. So I'm going to break it into what are the non-skill technical skills that you need to convince people that you want to have a job, and then actually what are the skills that make you succeed in the job that you're seeking. And I think for me, right, is that, and generally, right, when you want to move move roles, especially within an organization, you have a huge challenge, right? You need to convince people that you have the capability to move. And consultancy is a different mindset. It's a different approach, right? And a lot of the times, at least I've been told that if you're coming from different functions, it's difficult to become a consultant because there's a different mindset that is needed, because now you're looking at different kinds of approaches, frameworks. It's not just about doing, it's about making sure that the project is managed end to end in the right possible way. You've got the success factors. But before we go on that, like for me, I think it's very important that you start developing those skill sets, which I had started in the sense of technology, right? I knew how AI worked, how IoT worked, how customer experience worked. So I had that baseline of skill set. But what I also did is that I started having conversations with hiring managers or people who would influence that decision, whoever was supposed to hire me. And so it's very important for you to set that foundation and establish that narrative and a brand within the company as well, that you're not a marketeer anymore. You are now someone who can actually deliver and provide value to the clients in another field. And that would mean, how would you do that? You either talk about it, you write LinkedIn blogs, you have conversations with people within it. So I did a lot of it to convince people, that, okay, I can do it. And so when that decision was made, right, there are definitely like a couple of skill sets that made me successful. And I think some things that I had to learn. So like I mentioned, I came armed with the understanding of how technology is going to impact customer experience, how innovation works, right? So from that point of view, the technical skill set was there. But now it was a conversation on how does a consultant work, right? And that was, to be honest, a very steep learning journey for me. My first initial approaches and proposals that I created were very much marketing jargon, as if I'm creating content for a marketing pitch or I'm creating, an advertisement or an editorial. So I got a lot of pushback in that less fluff, Asma, less jargon of marketing. We need to be very specific.
I was going to ask, what is the difference between, the real client conversation and, a marketing material that you are creating, like thinking that this is a persona you're creating it for? So what's the difference?
And I think, again, right, it's a very interesting question, because I think that's what I developed in my journey, is that initially for marketing, right, you are trying to, there's a level of convincing that needs to happen on a very high level, right? So you are trying to influence decisions, which means you need to show them the big picture. You need to wow them because you need to establish a hook first, right? So there's a huge responsibility on marketeers where I need to do something that cuts through the noise so they pay attention to me, right? Yeah. And then you take them through that whole journey. With consultancy, right, the journey starts with going deep into the learning of what you're trying to convince them. Ultimately, the success factor, I think, for both marketeers and consultants are the same, that there's a convincing aspect, right? But with consultancy, you dig deep. Like, you go meticulous into the details of how this approach is working, how this product is working. And then in consultancy, it becomes a little bit of a backseat, right? Because it becomes more broader, because you're not selling a product. You're telling them how you're going to help them in their transformation. So the approach is never an offering a product. It's about, how can I partner with you and what steps I'm going to take. And that was not something that you traditionally do in marketing. You traditionally do not go detail into the list of activities and assessment. You don't go into really looking at the whole operational segment. So it made me really understand, how do you drill down to the ABCs of every activity that you're doing? Yeah,
I think it's great, but I definitely feel that your marketing heritage sort of helped you to sort of become a successful consultant. The organization that integrates both of the functions in a sort of in a wise way. I think they complement each other. Thank you for being sincere with this, and thank you for sort of sharing what helped you, because I think it's also very useful for those who are planning to change their careers. So I want us to talk a little bit, probably more about the role that you're doing now, because I know you're on a very, very hot topic now. So I will allow you to tell what you're doing.
Can I just add another point on the previous one?
Oh yeah, of course.
We can edit it, because I think what is really important, and what I've realized has really helped me in my career, is that companies are evolving, right? All companies are now becoming digital businesses. Digital businesses means that a lot of conversations are happening online with customers. You need to connect with customers, but the whole journey is digital now. And even from product development, right? So product development is what these days? You need to understand the customer's point of views. You need to understand what they need, what they require. And so in my career, what I've realized and what really helped me as a marketer is that my understanding of the customer, my understanding of what they think, how the value proposition should be mapped. And when you talk about digital businesses, a core part is mapping out the experience, right? How are you going to convince the customer, but how that journey flows, right? And marketeers are in such a crucial advantage position to leverage their learnings of customers, leveraging the data that they're getting from customers, and really helping organizational transform, not just as businesses, but also the roadmap of product and offerings, because all of it is dependent on the insights we're getting from the customer. This is the kind of advice I give to my startup mentor, the mentees that I do as well. When we talk about digital platform business, right, your actual product and offering is on a platform. And it's constant interaction with customers, right? So to scale your offering, so if you look at the Ubers, the Careems, if you look at, Airbnb, right? It's a platform that they've created. We look at Facebook, right? Again, it's a platform, and that is the product offering itself. So people are engaging with it. So how do you continue to evolve, and how do you identify value creation? How do you identify new sources of revenue for your digital model? Because it can't just always be. So for example, if we take any platform business from Uber to Airbnb, their original model would have been just a matchmaking site, right, of hosts versus people who are seeking, houses or places to stay. But that alone, right, cannot be your differentiator long, because people can copy it. So how do you continue to add those value elements in your platform that continues to attract customers? So even if you look at LinkedIn, right, LinkedIn started with I believe, just having your profile, right? It then added job postings. It then added content creation. It then added, capabilities for influencers to talk about themselves. So there's constant value creation happening. And this is where marketeers, I think, are very core in a digital business platform. Again, going back to the conversation I said earlier on, they know what the customers want. So the data is coming in, right, on how people are using the products. What are the gaps? You use those insights to be able to inform how your digital platform is going to evolve. What are the features that you're going to add or remove? Even from a physical, like a SaaS perspective, but I'll take SaaS as an as-a-service offering. So take a washing machine, for example, right? Now, traditionally, washing machine manufacturers would sell it to the distributors who would sell it to the customers. So that means that the manufacturers are very far away from the actual customers. That does not give them a lot of power, because ultimately there's a smiley curve concept that says that those entities that are closest to the customer, has access to the customer data, are going to be the more powerful in the entire value chain. So then we talk about Internet of Things. These machines are now incorporated with sensors. So when they are actually in front of the customers, the manufacturer has direct access to the needs, wants of the customer.
Yeah.
And what they can do now is that, okay, I'll give you the washing machine as a subsidy, right? But you share the data with me so I can help you kind of understand and give you better options, right? Better options and upsell and cross-sell opportunities as well. So you buy the washing machine for me, but over time, I will know when I need to cross-sell a laundry product to you, when the service happens, right? So you establish a long-term relationship with customers. But as a brand, then your whole system of revenue generation and business model changes, because now you're able to get first-hand information on how a customer is using the product. So you don't need to do focus groups or research anymore, right? They know that, out of the 6 buttons, 2 are never used by 90% of the people, right? So in our next model, let's remove that. You get service offering requests, right? So you're able to figure out what is working, what's not working. But also from the point, right, is that because the data is coming to you, you can even understand the lifetime of customers. For example, a customer was doing only 1 kg of laundry a week. All of a sudden, it increased to 4 kgs. Does that mean that a major life moment happened in that customer's life? Right? So you're able, and so marketeers are in a really good position, because again, they understand the customer journey and needs.
I think you're right. And I was just listening to you, and I think I was so happy to sort of realize how much the whole marketing structure and organization is changing because of the growth of the platform businesses and as a service businesses, because it dramatically increases the role of marketing professionals within, the actual product formation, the actual product development, how important it is to have a key customer marketer, understanding the customer journey at the same time, probably making the right recommendations on the functionality that can only add additional value to a client. So it's amazing and how fast it has happened. And so I think you're right. How much of the traditional marketing do you think is going to stay with us? Like, just to complete our conversation about marketing heritage, etc. So how much of the traditional and how it is going to transform, probably that is an interesting thing.
And I think, to be honest, like a large part of marketing is still going to remain the same, because we'll still need core. How do we reach customers? How do we connect with them? But I think that the part of marketing is only going to evolve, like we mentioned, right? Going into product development, product design, digital transformation. But then again, the large chunk still remains the same, where we need to get in touch with customers. We need to like connect with them. But that part, right? The whole vertical integration, now that part that was traditionally done with marketeers will include a lot of other individuals within the functions, within other functions as well. For example, now it's core to involve data science, right? As a part of it. But if we want the end-to-end experience to work, marketeers also will need to figure out, how do you work with supply chain? How do we work with our inventories, right? So it's just an end-to-end chain that would require a lot of collaborations with different functions if you want to ultimately increase the value you want to give to your customers.
Exactly. So even the traditional marketing structure requires a huge, sort of reshuffle or review of the structure and bringing in new skills like data science, for example, which is a major. Do you think it's going to be an outsourced function or an in-house? Just for my curiosity.
I think that the conversations around outsource or in-house largely depends on business and business priorities. And the kind of investment they're ready to make. So for example, I think that for a lot of growth digital platform companies, growth hacking is key. So would they want to outsource? No, because like a large part of their organization just relies on marketing to do its job because they want the upkeep. So I don't think that I'm in a good position to answer that right now.
Which is fine. Yeah. Just out of the curiosity, I wanted to ask you about
I think it would be dependent on the priorities of any
the size of the business. Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah.